All right. Hey, Dr. Warren. Good morning for you. Good afternoon for me. You're out there in Utah. I'm out here in Michigan. So how's things going for you? I know you got a tight schedule. I really appreciate you taking time to squeeze this in. So let's get right to it. Talk about this methylene blue that everybody is so hip on right now.
Yeah, several years ago when I was doing my residency, we used a lot of methylene blue in the ICUs, and shortly when COVID came along, I had a lot of patients, whether they were young or old or whatever it was, having the problems, and they just couldn't focus. They couldn't get their brains to get going. They were, their jobs, they couldn't go back to their jobs. And I remember back in medical school that we used to do IV methylene blue in the shock trauma units to help people's brains. So I started doing IV methylene blue for the patients in my clinic, and son of a gun, they all started getting better. They were able to go back to work. They functioned better. They were happier and did a lot of better, just we're doing much better. So I talked to some people and said, let's try getting into a tablet form so it's easier for people, because methylene blue, even though, and we're going to talk about the background of it, even though it sounds crazy and it sounds like a dye, which it's not, it really has such a great history in helping people. And that's what we came around about, to say, let's try methylene blue to improve a lot of things in our body. But it came from that area, from my experience in the past.
Sure. So and I did my research, and it came across my radar when Mel Gibson was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and Mel Gibson dropped the methylene blue, and I think it kind of blew up from there. You've known about it because you've been in the field, but I think it got public awareness when Mel Gibson was on Rogan. But it is a textile dye. Let's get it straight. It was originally used as a textile dye, correct?
No, it wasn't. Actually, it's a variant of it. We used it as a dye in the body, but when you really get down to the history and look at it, it's not a dye. The reason it's blue is because of the rings, the molecular rings that are around the methylene blue reflect the light and give it that blue color. And then, so if you get it oxidized, what does it do? It turns white and clear. So it's really not a dye that I can, make my jeans. I can dye anything else with. So it's not an organic dye that we think of. It's totally something different. Even though people think it's associated with a dye, it's really not a dye. It will in your body, when you're looking for, let's say, ruptured organs or looking for ruptured vessels, it turns blue when it hits the oxygen. But again, going from blue to white and blue to white, it shows that it's not a dye I could use for any textile. And it wasn't used originally for that, even though everybody talks about it that way.
Yeah, because Dr. Paul Saladino was on Instagram the other, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and this really got my attention. He said, for all you people taking methylene blue, you got to check this out. He said it turns the heart blue, it turns the liver blue, turns everything, all your organs blue. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know. I'm getting ready to talk to Dr. Warren here about this. I got to bring this up because he's out there promoting it pretty heavily, saying that it's a serotonin releaser. It doesn't have any effect on the mitochondria, which is so controversial to me because I was under the impression it is for the mitochondria. And that's what's got me hooked on this, is that I started researching it, and I had long post-COVID symptoms I could not shake. Then Kobe Taylor over at Fusion Pharmacy, he recommended, he said, have you looked into methylene blue yet? And I said, funny enough, I just heard about it when I was on with Joe Rogan's podcast with Mel Gibson. So Can you clear the air? Can you clear the air? Start with that. Does it turn your organs and heart blue? Is everything in my body blue right now?
It doesn't, since I've done surgery on people. But again, if you let's say you did an autopsy in somebody, the minute the oxygen hits the methylene blue, or if it's in the body, it might turn part of the brain a little bit blue because it's not a dye. It's oxidizing. It's a redox, product. And so it doesn't turn any of your organs inside blue color. Okay. If I open up somebody that's been on methylene blue, I'm looking for, let's say, a hole in an intestine to see if there's a leak in their intestine. If I give them methylene blue, it leaks out to the hole. It'll turn blue and it hits the oxygen and takes it from a redox state to another state. And that's how it works. But it's not dyeing any of your organs blue inside of you as you sit there. And then the other thing that he talks about is the serotonin, problem. And again, I've been doing geriatric psychiatry for years. One of my other partners in this process has been at 45 years doing geriatric psychiatry. None of us have ever seen a serotonin syndrome. And when you look at it, you have to be on 4 to 5 milligrams per kilo a day of methylene blue with a high dose of an SSRI or any of those antidepressants or drugs to get the effect. And if you look at the literature, and if you do even on AI and say, hey, show us one case of serotonin syndrome with methylene blue, there's one case of it, and that's when they were in surgery, giving somebody, they were on anesthetic, they were on high dose of SSRIs, and they gave it to them IV. They thought they might have seen a serotonin syndrome, but there's no In the literature, there's no cases of methylene blue causing serotonin syndrome. And the other thing that's interesting is there's a couple of people out there, including Saladino and a few others, talking about how it causes that problem. These guys are using it at high doses. As you remember from the physiology of methylene blue, lower doses that we recommend, anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 milligrams per kilo per day, doesn't give you the benefit, doesn't cause any harm. But you start getting up to 4 to 5 to 6 milligrams a kilo, indeed, you're going to get some side effects. And that's well pointed out in the literature. So you don't use a high dose, but they always talk about the side effects of methylene blue using these high doses of methylene blue that will cause some problems. But in the standard doses you and I are using daily, we don't see any problems that way.
Right. So I went out and I downloaded the book. It's called Methylene Blue Bible, the Methylene Blue Bible. I downloaded it, listened to it. Great wealth of information. And it said in that book, if I'm weighing 200 pounds, I believe it's right around 95 kilos. So that recommended dose would be about 45 milligrams per day. That's
well, if you take, let's say you're 90 kilo, okay, and you
have your product right here.
Per kilo, yeah, 2 milligrams, yeah, and that's if you take that much, you're not even close, because 90 milligrams times 2 is 180, and you're not even close to that amount with the products we take. So, and you sometimes can go up to 3. So we've never seen any side effects causing a serotonin syndrome with the methylene blue, because we have those, the low doses. But you think about it, 90 kilo times 2 or 3, that could be up to 270 milligrams a day of methylene blue. That's a lot. And nobody ever gets close to that because they get the benefits at a lower dosage.
Right. So what I've been doing with yours, I've been taking one in the morning and then I take one mid-afternoon. So so if they're 15 milligrams each or 60 pills in here, I'm at 30. And right. But what I've noticed right away is that that shitty brain fog that I was lingering for all those years from the COVID. I had COVID so bad I was in the hospital for 3 days, pneumonia. Wow. It was awful. Right. And something since then never really went away. So being a mad scientist, I've been doing researching and trying different things. Right. Then I talked to Kobe Taylor, Fusion Pharmacy. He said, Brett, it sounds like you may want to try the methylene blue, because I've been getting a lot of people in here saying the same thing. And once they get on that starts to clear up. And I'll be damned if it didn't.
I know. That's what we see from everybody everywhere throughout the country that are writing to us, is taking that dosage and their brain fog's going away. And then even in dosages, I'll give you an example. I had a lady a few months ago, 76. She came in to see me. She said, I think I have dementia. And I said, why? She said, well, I can't remember the names of the dogs in my neighborhood. And I used to know all the dogs' names. I have 150 houses that I'm the property manager of. I can't remember their names anymore. And I think I have dementia. And so, everything else checked out on her was normal. Put her on methylene blue. 3 months later, she came back and we got onto a different subject. And she said, do you want to know about the methylene blue? And I said, yeah, just sort of, reluctantly. And she said, well, I can remember every dog in the neighborhood. I can remember all 150 properties' names. And not only that, I know every one of their addresses. And so that's what we're getting reported throughout the country. People that are going into nursing home in a dementia ward started taking the products that are suddenly turning around. So it's repairing those mitochondria in the body, because if you don't have good mitochondria, you just can't function at all. It's the bottom line of everything in our body, and our brain has more mitochondria than anywhere.
Yeah, Dr. Chris Palmer, Brain Energy, great book. He actually, I love that book. I've referred that book to so many people, and I've listened to it several times. The one thing that he did say in that book, though, because somebody asked him, is there a supplement that can help with mitochondria? And he said, unfortunately, not. Now, this is I don't know if he's aware of methylene blue. This is before this is a couple of years ago that I actually heard him say that. So my question is, well, he might want to revisit that, because I swear by it. I really do.
Yeah, and that book, as you know, was written. I read the book the first day it came out, basically, and that was before I started even promoting methylene blue. So I don't think he was really aware of it. Again, the psychiatrist I work with has reached out to him and again tell him the benefits that he sees with the methylene blue, and I think he sort of realizes that there are several things out there that help with the mitochondria health. The unique thing of methylene blue, it not only brings nutrients into the mitochondria, it also takes all those reactive species out and all the toxins that are in mitochondria and pulls them out. So it's the only substance that brings good things in, pulls bad things out, and that's what makes it work so well in all of our bodies.
How is it different? I know when you first jumped on here, you started talking about the IV part of it. Is there? I know when you take it, sometimes it hits it a little differently. The IV.
Not very. We drip it in slowly, and I haven't seen much difference with it between the ones that take it by mouth and the IV. I don't use much IV anymore because everybody's doing so well with the oral pills. I do it for someone comes in that are very sick or, in an acute situation, I'll still use IV methylene blue, but I think I get the same benefits with the the pills and the medication that way than I did from the IV.
Talk about liposomal, because I know I do take some supplements that are liposomal where they just, they dissolve, they bypass the they get into the system a little quicker.
A little quicker.
Right.
And I don't think methylene blue, because of its, molecular thing, worked well in that liposome. It still would turn people's mouths blue if they did take it that way. And so we've tried that. We thought about it, but I think the formation that we have right now seems to be working. So, we might touch on that in the future again.
And I would tell people, because right now everybody's pushing this stuff. They really are. And every other person online is talking about get your methylene blue. And there's so many companies out there. And when Kobe Taylor told me he trusts your product, Kobe and I have a pretty good relationship. Do you know Kobe?
Yeah, I know his name. Yeah, not that I can pick him out in an audience. I've heard Fusion Pharmacy, yeah. Right,
yeah. So he highly recommended the product. So tell people right now, I mean, you guys are doing something differently, obviously, because somebody could put some stuff together and call methylene blue, and it could be crap, could be junk,
and that's
dangerous.
Yeah, I've ordered some online, and it just shocks me of what's out there. And so, we're getting ours from a really reputable source. We have the COAs on it. We have the chromatography on it. So we're getting a really high grade pharmaceutical product, and then we're mixing it together in a way that I think that we're getting the benefits. We also use some of our products, a mineral oxide, which is sort of a proprietary product that seems to have the body absorb the products a lot better. So I think we came out basically first, right after the ones that were the troches under the tongue, and we keep improving it, but we're getting still the best benefits. I have people who say they went somewhere else because it was cheaper. They'll come back to us because they're getting the benefits from it. So I guess the proof is in the pudding. I guess they take it and get better versus what else is out there. Because as you know, in this market, boy, people try to cheapen it, do whatever they can to make it cheaper, but they're not getting the good quality that I want. And it's not that expensive. So that's what I wanted. I want a good quality at not a really high price.
Exactly. And this one here I take has vitamin C, but you have another one that helps with ADHD that has caffeine in it. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have one that has synthetic caffeine in it that helps with people with ADHD. We've used it as young as 6 and 7 year olds, so they're off their Ritalins in the schools. We have the one that you have, which has been used for years for bladder infections and for other people that are sensitive to caffeine. We have that one. We have one we're using in our weight loss program that has the methylene blue with natural caffeine, like the green teas. We also have one that we're putting glycine, nicotinamide, and B6 in it for the memory that we're using for the dementia. And we're just recently started a new stack for weight loss that I think, and I've been doing the injections for the last 6 years. And the combination of our methylene blue with what we're using, some other mitochondria, we're starting to see the same weight loss I did with using the shots.
Wow. Did you say you had one with NAD in it? Is that what you just said?
Yep, we have one with NAD. We're using a NAD with PQQ and then taking the methylene blue on top of that. So a NAD with PQQ with the methylene blue on top of that. It seems to work well.
Wow, because I was taking PQQ by itself, and then NAD. I did the NAD drip.
Right.
When I was in Utah, I went to the wellness center. They did the NAD drip, but I never had it stacked like that in a supplement. Is that available to the public?
Yes, it is. They've got it out on their site right now because, even if you, like you said, you have to be pretty tolerant to do IV NAD, which I used to do for people. And I couldn't stand the chest pain. And then some people just inject it, get that big flush. And so I've talked to the people that I put on this oral product with the PQQ, and they say they're still getting the same benefits as they were from the IV. So you have to give it a try. We'll have Zach send you some. Yeah,
definitely get him on board. I would love to do that. And let's talk about this for a second, and then I'm not sure how many patients you have waiting on you, but let me ask you this question: I came to methylene blue. I said I have to clear this up. I've tried everything. Okay, I went 5 years of debilitating depression, paralyzed anxiety, major suicidal ideation, all of it, chronic insomnia, and PTSD, and then got hit with COVID, and then about 2024, I from 2019 to 2024. I was down for the count with that depression.
Jeez.
I was coming out of it, and then I felt that things were still lingering. Like I just wasn't myself. My brain was fried and shot, and I was trying. I came on board for Methylene Blue for the brain fog.
Right.
But since I've been taking it, I got to tell you, it seems like almost it's a mood booster or something, like a little bit of a, I can't put my finger on it, but it's a mood enhancer. And that's not why I took it. I took it for the brain fog, but I guess because my brain's feeling better, I may be feeling better as well, right?
Well, I agree with that. And that's what we're seeing from people. There's a sub-product that we have out there, private labeled, called Natty Addy, which they've been taken to the smoke shops, and they're replacing the 5 energy drink with this little shot of the Methylene Blue with the other, I think there's some other substances in it, no caffeine or anything. And the smoke shop said they're getting better response than everybody using their 5-hour shots. So it really does. Again, when you look at it, we always talk about inflammation, but mitochondrial health is the key thing, because if they're dysfunctioning, then we get a lot more inflammation. And you remember, everything in our body has mitochondria except red blood cells. And so the athletes are using it. They're getting better response. The weight loss is getting better. So, I mean, it hits almost every area in our body. I mean, when you think about it, it kills malaria. It killed bladder infections in the 50s and 60s. Every woman's pill had Methylene Blue in it. And so when you see something like that has such a wide range and it's so easy to take, that's the cool part about it. You might get some blue urine a little bit. If you take a lot of B12, you might get green urine, but it's not staining your kidneys. It's not staining your bladder. It's not doing anything except repairing those mitochondria so you have more energy and feel a lot better.
I do have blue pee. I got to test it. I will admit my pee is blue. It's pretty fascinating to watch my pee turn blue.
You have pee blue and you'll be in health. So that's you got to think about that. So
right.
Anyway, that was the reason what happened back in the World War I when they used Methylene Blue for all the soldiers. That's the part they didn't like, the soldiers. The sergeants liked it because they knew they were taking their medications, but they didn't like that part with the blue urine. So that's when they purified it. When they purified it, one direction turned out to be hydroxychloroquine, which we use again for COVID and for rheumatoid arthritis. When they purified it, the other direction turned out to be the basis for some antidepressants and antipsychotics. So you think about this molecule, what it can do is amazing, the benefits of it.
Yeah.
And I don't see a tolerance either. You can take the same dose for a long period of time. You don't need more and more to get the same effect as you do with a lot of medications.
That's true. That's very true. So do you think now that it's on the radar, the FDA is going to start? Have you heard anything about the FDA trying to restrict, because they want their hands? Big Pharma wants part of everything, right?
They do. They haven't tackled this one because there's no money in it. So, unless they come up with their super duper and charge $1 trillion more, I don't think they're going to be interested in it. But there's no harm in it. There's no side effects at the right doses. That's the important part. And that's the part that, we've got to stay within the limits in what we're doing. We're not going to see those problems.
I got you. Yeah, makes sense. So are you prescribing it for what? I guess I'm going to ask you the question. What are you the various things you're prescribing it for? You said dementia. I heard that.
We've done dementia. We've done it for the weight loss. We've done it for just general health. We've done it for like I said, you already said about the depression. Athletes are using it to help their energy levels to go up. So I can't really think of anybody that we're not prescribing it for, because I'm getting the reports back, and if I was having people come back and say, hey, we're not getting the benefits, that's a different story. But every time I turn around, people are writing to us and saying, boy, I'm getting this benefit or that benefit. And that's what makes it so exciting to have something so simple make such a big difference in people's lives.
It is. And I know we can't suggest or tell people to get off their antidepressants, but from experience, are patients coming to you that have replaced their antidepressants with Methylene Blue?
Yes, a lot of people have done that. And then the other one that I'm really happy about, a lot of patients are replacing their Adderalls and their Ritalins and their Vyvanses with it, totally. And then some people have cut their doses down so slow, maybe they take Adderall once or twice a week, and in between they're taking the Methylene Blue, because they don't get a letdown when they're taking the Methylene Blue like they do with the Adderall. So, I personally have taken 20 people off of Adderall, onto the Methylene Blue, and it's such a great thing to see them functioning better. They don't get that letdown. So I can't think of an area that I've not prescribed it for.
Yeah, Adderall is for the ADHD, right? So let's talk about this for a second. A lot of people are taking Adderall, and I don't know if they really know what's it. Adderall is it's a hard drug. It's very
basically it's basically, when you get down to it, it's legalized meth.
Right.
And so, that's basically what it is. And it excites the heart, has a lot of side effects. When you come off of it, it's this big letdown. and you really just, increase your heart rate. Has a lot of side effects that are out there, but there's just nothing, whether it's Ritalin, Vyvanse, or Adderall, they're all the same family, and they're all causing problems. And that's what makes it nice with methylene blue, because they're getting the benefits without all the negative side effects.
Exactly. So when you hear people say, well, Adderall is helping me, well, is it really helping them? Because like you just said, it's meth. So when you can replace something more natural, or replace that with something more natural, then you're going to get better benefits, obviously. So, yeah. I mean, that's a win all around.
Yeah, and that's why the people like it, because they don't like that letdown. And then, of course, a year or so ago, they couldn't find Adderall anymore. So how many people went into withdrawal because they couldn't find Adderall, because the government only allows so much to be produced a year. And so that's what the patients that are taking it are feeling so much better. They have something natural in their body. And then you think about the 8 and 9-year-olds or 12-year-olds that are being put on Ritalin or all those other meds, and they could take methylene blue and have the same benefits. That's where we're seeing the parents saying, hey, this is working for our kids. They're doing better in school, and we're not giving them all that bad medication.
That leads me right to my next question. By the way, how are you doing on time?
I think maybe 5 more minutes then.
Okay, let's start to bring in for landing then, because this is pretty important. I think when I was listening to Palmer's book, Brain Energy, I think somewhere in that book he had mentioned that some of those antidepressants actually rob the body or maybe stop producing the body of mitochondria. Can you speak to that?
I think they do damage it. When you look it up or do any research in that area, those SSRIs and some of the Adderalls are damaging the mitochondria. And then the mitochondria is unhealthy, and they keep wanting to take it because they don't have anything else to substitute, and they're scared to come off of it because they're going to feel worse. And so it gets into a really vicious circle, because it's sort of the pill does its, robs them of it, ruins it for them, and they have to have it to stay, sane basically, and to feel good. And that's what's so sad about it. So when you can substitute it, that's what you like to do. You can't just go cold turkey. You sort of, taper the one as you increase the other. And that's where we're seeing the benefits.
That's awesome. And how can people find this product? I found it on Amazon. You recommend it? You can go right to your website.
Yeah, I think the Best 365. Yeah, that's the best place to have it. They have all the other 5 or 6, 7, 8 products that go with it. The other area that I missed, we're doing really well with the liquid form for traumatic brain injury. We're seeing a lot of people that had traumatic brain injury, a lot with post-traumatic stress disorder. Those products are really helping that. The football players with the head concussions, they're taking the methylene blue with a couple other things in it, the mineral oxide. It's helping with that brain trauma, the traumatic brain injury. So that's what I'm excited about, seeing every gamut we're trying to help.
That's what Zach was saying.
Big product, so.
Yeah, Zach, who's on your team, he says that he actually had brain injury. He started taking methylene blue, and he noticed an amazing shift right away. So what's that doing in the brain? How is it actually repairing the brain? Is it simply just mitochondria?
Those mitochondria healthier from all the trauma and the swelling and everything they had with it, and the inflammation. So we get those powerhouses working and taking out the toxins that build up in those mitochondria. That's where we're seeing the benefits from it, okay?
Yeah, that's great. Well, it looks like you got to fly. I really appreciate your time. And we're definitely have you back on as we develop. Yes. I want to talk. The next one I want to talk about is that PQQ, because that's huge. I'm so glad
let's
to have
talk
that
about
product.
that and our other new products that are coming out. You'll just enjoy them. We'll talk about them. Okay.
All right. Sounds great. Have a great day. Thanks again for your time.
Later. Thanks for your help. Bye bye.
All right, guys. Bye bye.
Hey, thanks.